Shalom, my friends, this is Max Joseph, and I'm here because it is the 10th day of the month, which means that it is time for the top 10s. Today's top 10 will be my top 10 actors of all time. And to clarify, this top 10, it is just male actors. I'll have another top 10 in the very near future of my top 10 female actors of all time. And I also want to add numbers 4 through 10 could be swapped with pretty much any of my honorable mentions. This specific top 10 was harder to me than choosing my favorite movies of all time, or any other top 10 that I've made or even thought about making. But through literally days and days of deliberation during my social distancing, this is my top 10 I decided on, but the honorable mentions could easily take nearly any one slot. But before I go into my top 10, write your picks for the top 10 actors of all time, and make sure you like this video and subscribe to my channel, and ding that little bell to get notified whenever I post new videos. And so, here are my top 10 actors of all time. Number 10, John Candy, a man that was taken way too soon. I cannot express in any amount of words how much I adore John Candy. Whenever I think about John Candy, I just light up. He was a part of so many wonderful films that I grew up on. Spaceballs, Home Alone. By the way, he's severely underrated in Home Alone. Rookie of the Year. And one of my all-time favorites, Cool Runnings. He was a perfect comedian that was so full of heart. Just take 3 of those roles I mentioned. All 3 are different and equally impressive in different ways. Starting off with Spaceballs. He is an absolute lunatic and so freaking funny. He fit in perfectly with the universe that Mel Brooks created, and his banter off Bill Pullman is genius. Could make it on my all-time comedies list. So freaking funny. Then you have a much smaller role in Home Alone, but this is where I really start to see a small spark of genius. I mean, yes, he's a comedic genius, but this is like the more like, I don't know about dramatic, but just like a different kind. With only a few minutes of screen time alongside Catherine O'Hara, he makes every minute count, and each minute is so good. And I know it's only those couple small scenes that probably not many people think about, but I really find that his like 4-ish minutes of whatever time he has so memorable and so meaningful to the story and really impressive. And then one of my favorite all-time films, Cool Runnings. I think I know every single line to this film. It is endlessly quotable, at least within my family. And then John Candy just really shines in it. For me, it's my favorite of his performances, without question. I love the character development. I love his deliveries, which can sometimes be mean, hilarious, and a few times really, really moving. And I didn't even mention Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Little Shop, Stripes, Splash. There's so much goodness that he gave this world, and I wish we still had him. Fun fact, in kindergarten, we had to make these like water bottle styrofoam headed things of someone who we looked up to. You know, there were a lot of Benjamin Franklins, Amelia Earhart, George Washington, those kinds of people. Guess who Max Joseph brought in? You better believe it, John Candy. And being me, you better believe I educated my classmates and teachers on just who John Candy was. Number 9, Samuel L. Jackson. This Pulp Fiction, Django Unchained, Star Wars, The Incredibles, Do the Right Thing, Die Hard, Coming to America, Jurassic Park, nearly every Marvel film. This man has been in almost 150 films, and they just keep coming. My favorite activity is to name a movie and see if Samuel L. Jackson was in it or had some part of it. And he is so entertaining in every single role he has. His deliveries, his mannerisms, they're almost like hypnotic. He steals every scene he's in. You can't take your eyes off of him. And one of the things that I love about him is that it kind of feels like he does similar things in many of the roles he does, which isn't a dig because he does that thing really well. And I can't really pinpoint what that thing is, but it is Samuel L. Jackson's thing. And nobody on earth can do that thing. He's a one-of-a-kind performer, and if he is ever in a film, I am there. And chances are I already was gonna see it, but then I'd start watching and then say, oh yeah, of course Samuel Jackson is in this. Like, yes, of course he is. And thank goodness, because he should be. I love him. Number 8, Hugh Jackman. The word that comes to mind when I think about Hugh Jackman is impressive. I find him to be such an impressive individual. He is the true definition of a triple threat. He can act, he can sing, and he can dance. And awards, they don't mean everything, but they do mean something. And this dude not only has an Academy Award nomination, but he has, and these are just a select few, he has a Golden Globe win, a SAG nomination, an Emmy win, a Grammy win, and he has a Tony Award. 2, including his special Tony that he earned in 2012. He is an Oscar away from EGOTing. Anyway, besides his big blockbusters, which I'll get to in a moment, he has some really meaty films like Prisoners, The Prestige, Les Mis, which was where his Oscar nomination came from. Then he also does voiceover work, most recently last year's Golden Globe winning animated feature Missing Link. He does the musicals, obviously Les Mis, and then there's the global mega hit that was The Greatest Showman. And then of course, he is Wolverine. Who were the most perfectly cast superhero characters of all time? Hugh Jackman is arguably number 1. He is so perfect every single time he plays Wolverine. Similar to how I've said in the past there is no Marvel Cinematic Universe without Robert Downey Jr., well, there is without question no X-Men universe without Hugh Jackman. He was arguably the reason I fell in love with the superhero world of film because of his performance in 2000's X-Men. This man is a legend in my book and is so wonderful in everything he touches. Number 7, Gene Wilder. His performance in Blazing Saddles, Young Frankenstein, and The Producers alone are good enough to earn him a spot in this 10, but then enter Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. When I go back and look at the history of cinema, there are a small handful of films that make me pause and just thank them for being created. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is on that list, and Gene Wilder is to thank for that. As the Candyman, every minute, line after line, he was perfect. He was masterful. He was funny. He was dramatic. He was musical. He was even scary at some points. He did it all. And then some. And just when you thought he was done, at the end of the movie, he tugs at your heartstrings with, "But Charlie, don't forget what happened to the man who suddenly got everything he always wanted." What happened? He lived happily ever after. Chills. Watching his performance today is like watching history happen right before my eyes. Gene Wilder was a frickin' genius. Not only is he one of my favorite actors of all time, I believe he is one of the most talented actors of all time. The man did it all, and he provided us with years of memorable films, and I am thankful, beyond thankful, for what he gave us. Number 6, Morgan Freeman. So here's the thing with Morgan Freeman. I have never not enjoyed a film that he was a part of. Even if I'm not a fan of the film, I always really have a good time. Yes, he has his big movies like Shawshank Redemption, Seven, a few others that I'll get to in a bit, but I just want to know what you all think about it and see if you feel this way. Every single time that I see Morgan Freeman on the screen, I enjoy myself. The perfect example for me are the Fallen films. No, he's not the lead, but he is in them, and they're not the best movies, but every single time I see his face, I can't help but smile, and I enjoy those films. And I don't know if it's his voice, which is maybe the most recognizable voice of all time, along with James Earl Jones, Julie Andrews, a bunch of others that I can't really think of right now, but maybe I'll make another top 10 of those. But point being, I don't know if it's his beautiful speaking voice or the way he acts. I just can't get enough of him. And really quickly, let's just talk about the film that he is known for, Bruce Almighty. Just kidding, although again, I love him in that. But no, Shawshank Redemption, which is considered by many people, myself included, as one of, if not the greatest film of all time. His performance as Red is, I think the best word is undeniable. He is so brilliant in that film. He and Tim Robbins give 2 performances that, in my mind, go down in history as some of the finest displays of acting on the planet. Also, I'm all about him winning his Oscar for $1 Million Baby. I love that film, probably more than most people I know, and I'm not going to attempt to do his voice because I just can't do it. Number 5, Adam Driver. So I went back and forth putting Driver on this list just because compared to every single other person here, he's probably the newest. But the reason I put him on here instead of some big veterans that I'll get to in my honorable mentions is that when I kept looking at my 10, I kept looking at Driver's name in the honorable mentions, and I couldn't picture this list without him. And I actually started him at 10, just like to say like, okay, he'll start here. And then I was like, that doesn't feel right. And then I just kind of keep moving him until it landed on 5. Adam Driver has given me performances that I think passes the word masterful. It enters the world of Meryl Streep, Viola Davis, and a few actors coming up on this list. Yes, that good. I, like most of the world, really got introduced to Driver after his performance in Star Wars The Force Awakens. Had he done stuff before that? Absolutely. But this is where I think the world really started to take notice of him. And for good reason. He almost immediately became my favorite character in the Star Wars saga for his performance as Kylo Ren. I know this is probably, I hate using this term, but it actually does apply here, but a hot take. But you know, it's okay, because we're all allowed to have our own opinions. But my hot take is that I would have given him an Oscar nomination for Star Wars The Last Jedi. I think he was that good in that film. Even in The Rise of Skywalker, he wouldn't have gotten a nomination for that movie, but in The Rise of Skywalker, which I have many problems with, he is outstanding. And then you move past Star Wars. If his performance of Being Alive in Marriage Story taught us anything, it's that we are probably looking at another Oscar nomination, 3rd in a row, coming up for his work on Annette, a film in songs where he's playing opposite Marion Cotillard. That is a dream come true. And I must say, although I love Kylo Ren, my favorite performance from him is without a doubt his Oscar-nominated work in Spike Lee's BlacKkKlansman. He is on another planet brilliant. Shit, even in Silence, I lost my frickin' mind. Inside Llewyn Davis, Frances Ha. There are so many perfect performances from him. When it is all said and done, years from now, Adam Driver may sneak into my top 2 actors of all time. Number 4, Leonardo DiCaprio. I went through Leonardo DiCaprio's filmography of the last 20 years, and I don't think I saw a film or performance where I said, I think one could make the argument that this man should have about 10 Oscars by now, and depending on the year and who his competition was, it may have turned out that way. Whenever I think about Leonardo DiCaprio, I think many things. One of which is, wow, he kind of he knows how to take a line, flip it on its head, and say it like I was not expecting. And he is also someone who has been performing in A+ level films since he was, 19? In 1993, I think, when he was nominated for his performance in What's Eating Gilbert Grape. And since then, Romeo and Juliet, Titanic, Gangs of New York, Catch Me If You Can, The Aviator, The Departed, Blood Diamond, Revolutionary Road, Shutter Island, Inception, Django Unchained, The Wolf of Wall Street, The Revenant, which was finally when he won his first Oscar. Yeah, all of those didn't win. And then, of course, most recently, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He is one of those actors where when he has a film coming out, you go see it. And it's never a big blockbuster kind of film, or like the big superhero. It's a film starring Leonardo DiCaprio. He is someone who people don't normally go to the movie theaters, will go to the movie theater, order a big combo like a pizza, popcorn, Twizzlers, and a large Diet Coke. When it is a Leonardo DiCaprio film, people go see it. And I think that is rare these days. There are a very, very select few performers and directors who people go see because of their name alone. DiCaprio is on that small list of individuals, and it's deserved. He is one of the greats. Number 3, Denzel Washington. I mean, I think this man is a genius. These top 3 are the actors I most look up to and who I aspire to be as an actor growing up. And I think what I love about Denzel Washington is how in it he is. I'm not sure the best way to describe it, but every single line he ever delivers is said for a damn good reason, and if you question the reason, Denzel Washington will explain to you in so many words just who the you are speaking to and why. Most recent example would be Fences, which tore me to shreds. Between him and Viola Davis, who you will 1000% guarantee see in my top 10 female actors, were just unreal. And I may be alone on this, but as much as I loved Casey Affleck's performance in Manchester by the Sea, taking out all the outside drama with him, I wanted Denzel to win that award so frickin' badly. Monologue after monologue, scene after scene, Denzel knocked it out of the park every time. Some really remarkable acting he put on display. Also, if someone asked me what the most underrated movie is, I would throw in John Q. That would be at the top of the list, near the top at least. He is so good in that film. The film's good too. And he really makes you think about the lengths a parent would go in order to save the life of their child. And he does it in a way that is almost inspiring. I say almost because, you should never hold people hostage, but his performance as a loving father is brilliant. It really is. So brilliant that it is inspiring. And then last, remember the Titans, which has been mentioned a few times, probably more than a few, throughout the channel, and will continue to be mentioned. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, and I would argue that it is thanks to his performance. It is inspiring, and that speech that he gives at Gettysburg is in the argument of my favorite speeches of all time. Denzel Washington inspires me every single time I see one of his movies. Whether he's giving a big speech or being a badass like he is in the Equalizer films, he's amazing, he is captivating, he is a perfect actor to me. Number 2, Tom Hanks. Like pretty much every other actor on this list, Tom Hanks is a chameleon and can do any role, any genre you give him. He goes beyond infinity and beyond, ching, expectations and delivers and then some. Let's just take a quick look at some of his iconic films. Forrest Gump, Oscar winner. Philadelphia, Oscar winner. Big, Oscar nomination. Steven Spielberg's Saving Private Ryan, Oscar nomination. Oh gosh, okay, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, Oscar nomination. Toy Story, some of the greatest voice work on the planet. A League of Their Own, one of my favorite film quotes. There's no crying in baseball. I can't do the impression. Bridge of Spies, Captain Phillips, Catch Me If You Can, Castaway, Cloud Atlas, The Green Mile, The Polar Express, The Post, Saving Mr. Banks, Sully, The Terminal, and one of my favorite movies of all time, That Thing You Do, which he wrote and starred in. This list just keeps going. The man is a beast. Whether or not the film itself is wonderful, you can count on Tom Hanks delivering a true masterclass. He is a big, warm hug personified. He is a beautiful human being, and I can't wait for his upcoming film Greyhound, which he also wrote the screenplay for, by the way. He also has Bios, and then the upcoming Elvis film. He is constantly working on his craft, and he gets better with every single film he does. Tom Hanks is simply beautiful and simply perfect. Honorable mentions. I have a lot here. And I think a couple of these may eventually end up in my favorite actors of all time years from now. I also do want to mention that there are a few individuals who I think would maybe make this top 10, but because of certain events, not to get into it, I decided to not include them in the 10. But that goes back to the discussion, do personal life choices take away from a performance? That's for another video. Anyway, here are the honorable mentions. Michael Caine, Jim Carrey, Jackie Chan, Charlie Chaplin, Tim Curry, Willem Dafoe, Matt Damon, Johnny Depp, Robert Downey Jr., Michael Fassbender, Will Ferrell, Ralph Fiennes, Andrew Garfield, Jake Gyllenhaal, Oscar Isaac, Jason Isaacs, Nathan Lane, Heath Ledger, James McAvoy, Eddie Murphy, Liam Neeson, Robert De Niro, Gary Oldman, Joaquin Phoenix, Keanu Reeves, Alan Rickman, Ben Stiller, and Christoph Waltz. Number 1, Robin Williams. This has been my answer since I can remember. Without a doubt, my favorite actor of all time is the late, God, it kills me every time I think about it, the great Robin Williams. Nobody on the planet understood text the way Robin Williams did. There is not an actor on the planet, for me, that can even touch him. He checks every single box I could ever ask for in a performer. He can do drama. Good Will Hunting, which of course earned him his Oscar, Dead Poets Society, Patch Adams. His voiceover work is incredible. In fact, I'd argue that it is the greatest achievement in voiceover performance history, as the genie in Aladdin, which I still, to this day, think there should be an Oscar for voiceover, and he should have won for Genie. And sweet baby Moses, Robin Williams, in my book, is also the greatest comedic actor of all time. He has Mrs. Doubtfire, The Birdcage, Good Morning Vietnam, Night at the Museum, Jumanji, even Flubber. And I think when most people think of Robin Williams, they think of the movies I just mentioned or any of the other like 60-ish films he did in his lifetime. But the one that really did it for me was Hook. This movie is a masterpiece on so many levels, and it all goes back to Robin Williams. He's the perfect Peter Pan, a man who was larger than life, who also had that childlike spark and wonder to him, a man who loved stories and loved telling them. I spoke about it in other videos, specifically in my top 10 moments that made me cry, but I talk about this thing I call the Pixar dagger. Well, There's also this thing called the Robin Williams dagger. Just like the Pixar dagger, Robin Williams does this thing where he can just kind of switch from his comedic genius, which also makes me cry of laughter, but he goes from his comedy to absolutely crushing your heart. Or he makes you like raise your fist up in the air and scream, "Never give up." Those are the moments I say the Robin Williams dagger. It's the way he spoke, the way he moved, the way he interacted with his co-actors and made them brilliant. He made them better. It is untouchable. To me, there will never be someone like Robin Williams. We were spoiled with his talent, and we should celebrate him whenever we can. He personified the thing that I like to live by. A day without laughter is a lost one. Those are my top 10 actors of all time. Agree? Disagree? Let me know what your top 10 are in the comments. And so my friends, thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to like this video, give me your thoughts in the comments, subscribe to this channel, as well as follow me on Twitter and Instagram at mjoseph492. Like my page on Facebook, which is facebook.com/maxjosephfilmperson. And if you really love me, please consider being a patron on Patreon, where you can get patron-only content, guest interviews, giveaways, and lots more. You can even give me a film to review, a 10th of the month top 10 category, a ranking, or a song to sing. And that video will be dedicated to you. Shalom, my friends.